So I struggled with what to talk to you about today. This is Thanksgiving week. It's the beginning of the holiday season. It's America's most celebrated holiday and a time that we're supposed to relax and be with our friends and family. Unfortunately, a lot of our friends and family have been torn apart because of this election, because of our old and now new president, because of our increasingly fractured media landscape, and therefore our reality. So I know a lot of people in this nation are put off by the idea of coming together and feeling grateful, just as there are so many people who are feeling justifiably terrified about what's coming for us in the new year. Which is why I didn't want to just do a political episode or do some episode that belittled our feelings or lean too hard into being positive, because honestly, I don't feel that positive. We know there's a lot coming for us, and we know we're going to have to be rested and ready for it. But I wanted to make sure that we enjoy the times we have that are good. It's possible that so many things are going to be bad for a while, and it's going to be hard, and we're going to have to fight despite that heartbreak and exhaustion. So I think whenever we get the opportunity for a moment of peace or joy, we should take it. Hello, and welcome to the PoliticsGirl podcast. I'm your host, Lee McGowan. Let's get into it. The week of the election was my son's musical. It was 5 shows, 2+ hours each of joyful young people singing and dancing their hearts out. It was funny, and it was bright, and it was cheerful, and I needed it so badly. I hated leaving the theater. It meant I had to go back to reality, and I just wanted to stay in the joy. So when the joy offers itself to us, we have to be sure we take it. We need to hold on tighter to the things that make us happy. We need to be aware of the little sunshines in the darkness. I think this might be a great time to let go of those little irritations when we can and compartmentalize our big fears from our small joys. It's okay to be happy, even when things are sad. Sometimes that's what gives you the strength to go on. And go on we must. So this Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving 2024, I thought I would tell you a little story. A story about hope and perspective and living through dark times. Feel free to extrapolate what you want from it, but I have to keep reminding myself that I have been to a place where everything seemed incredibly dark before, and it was. But I'm still standing, and you can be too. For those of you who don't know, I have a very rare lung disease called pulmonary hypertension, which I was diagnosed with after my son was born and given 2 years to live. Now, saying that, my son is now 16 years old, and despite the fact that I am still very sick and absolutely dreading what might happen with the ACA, I can't deny I've done incredibly well. None of it was easy. It didn't come without a cost, and it is not over. But here I am, talking to you. Being told you're dying has a way of really sharpening your perspective. What's important to you, who matters, what you care about, what you want to be or what you want to do before you lose the opportunity to do it. As my therapist in the early days of my diagnosis said, being given a terrible diagnosis is a lot like living with a loaded gun pointing at your head and trying to act like you're normal. I feel like that's what we're doing today. Life doesn't just stop because you live under extraordinary circumstances. I was dying, but that didn't stop my bills from coming in or solve my marriage problems. It didn't make my child perfectly behaved or make our school district better. I still felt frustrated if the email I'd spent an hour on accidentally got deleted, and I still swore at assholes in traffic. Getting sick didn't make me zen. I was still me, but it did give me a perspective that few others have. I know it sounds weird to say, but I am incredibly grateful to know what I know. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But if you told me you could make it so I never got sick, I'm not sure if I would take you up on it. I'm a different person now. I know how important life is. I know how grateful I am to be here, to be with my people, to appreciate the company of my child, to do boring things like have a shower or walk my dog. Getting really sick allows you to live consciously in a way you couldn't before. Knowing things might end soon gives you a chance to reflect, and it becomes so clear what is important to you, what matters in your life. You worry less about what people think or what you might say, and you know that the people you choose to have in your life are there because you are better for their company. You don't have time to waste on idiots. 5 months after my son Lachlan was born, I started having trouble breathing. I figured I was just out of shape. Having a baby is no joke. And despite the fact that I had exercised straight through my pregnancy, I figured I was just getting winded because I was a new mom and this was normal stuff. But when I got to the point that I couldn't make it from my car to the house without feeling like I'd run a city block, or get to the top of the stairs without falling to my knees to catch my breath, I knew something else was going on. It's one of the reasons I am so adamant about women being able to choose if they want to be pregnant or not. Pregnancy is incredibly hard on your body, and even if everything goes well, it can affect your health for the rest of your life. It is not a choice to be taken lightly. You have to really want it to take that risk. And I was having a baby at a time where it was far less risky than it is now. My doctor was out of town at the time, so I saw someone I'd never met before, and he could barely conceal his eye rolling as I described my symptoms to him. He seemed to think it was postpartum, that I was just a woman and being dramatic. He told me that women who have babies sometimes feel like something's wrong with them, but there's nothing wrong with them. I told him I was not looking for attention, that something was truly just wrong with me, and I wouldn't leave his office until he did some tests. He wasn't thrilled. He said, "Fine, maybe you're anemic." And I said, "Great, test me for anemia." It wasn't anemia. He finally agreed to send me to the hospital for further tests as a precaution, mostly I think to get me out of his office. He was dismissive and nonchalant, and he said he was only agreeing to do this because it would, quote, look bad on him if I dropped dead over the weekend. He really said that. I was admitted to the hospital and placed on the cardiac floor in what I can only imagine was the worst room in the entire building. It was tiny and gray and had sloping asymmetrical concrete walls. It was the last room at the end of the hall with no natural light, no view, and only one neighbor. A woman who would wail almost all day long and would often make her way to my door just to scream straight into my room. In many ways, her outbursts reflected what was going on inside my head. I might have appeared outwardly pulled together, but inside, I was that woman. 8 hours of tests, and I had a diagnosis: pulmonary hypertension. In retrospect, I was very lucky to have been diagnosed that first day. There are people with my disease who live for years in a world of misdiagnosis. But at the time, I did not feel lucky or grateful. I felt very confused and scared. When they said I had pulmonary hypertension, I was like, okay, but I'm not going to die from that, right? And the 3 doctors standing in my room, my ridiculously small room, so they were all kind of jammed in, went silent. And I looked at all of them and I said, but I'm not going to die from it, right? And one doctor said, well, everybody dies. I literally did a double take. Like, what? Everybody dies? What are you saying? How can you be so nonchalant about this? That makes no sense. I have a brand new baby. I'm 33 years old. I'm exceptionally healthy. I never smoked. I work out 5 days a week. I don't do drugs. I mean, quite frankly, I had never taken a single unnecessary risk with my life. What do you mean everybody dies? Fuck you, bro. Look, I'm not an idiot. I know humans are mortal, and death is part of life. But I think it's fair to say we're not supposed to die in our early 30s. We're not supposed to leave our newborn babies without mothers or our spouses without partners. None of that was normal. So him just sitting there on his stupid little wheelie chair in my crap room telling me that everybody dies? No, dude, everybody does not just die of lung diseases. I never even mastered smoking. But the thing is, even if you're angry or life feels unfair, or it feels illogical, or you just can't believe something is happening, the fact is, sometimes things just happen, and there is nothing you can do about it. And for me, I had a 1 in a million lung disease with no known origin, and it was terminal. It was what it was. My husband had to tell my parents. I had to tell my friends. But for my closest friends, I knew which friend I had to reach out to. I had to reach out to the most practical one, the one who could be counted on not to get emotional. And she was exactly what I needed her to be. She said, okay, what do you want me to do? And I said, I need you to tell everyone else. And she did. And they called me, and I didn't answer because I had no way to handle speaking to people yet. I couldn't make anyone else feel better. I couldn't make myself feel better. Every day was just about survival. I focused on adjusting, and I focused on coping. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, where I sat perpetually with the idea that I would be dead before my child would ever have his own memories of me, that my husband would be a widower before his 35th birthday, that my parents would have to plan my funeral. I spent 10 days in the hospital with the doctors just looking for any possible source of my disease. Maybe I had lupus, maybe I had HIV, maybe it was some weird infectious disease. They told me if they could just find the cause, they could treat the cause, and then maybe they would reverse my pulmonary hypertension. So every day needles were jammed into my arms and my stomach, and I gave more blood than I thought was possible. I took endless streams of pills and saw specialist after specialist, just hoping to discover a source. I actually prayed for another disease. The doctors led me to believe that was the only way they would have anything to treat, if they could just find something else. That the pulmonary hypertension on its own was a death sentence, that my only hope was that if something else was wrong with me. And when they couldn't find anything, I was devastated. There was just nothing to treat. I had 2 to 3 years to live. I became despondent. I mean, that's the only way to put it, despondent. I stopped talking. I would stare at the wall and then I would just burst into tears. The only thing that stopped me from crying all the time was that crying made it harder to breathe, and I was already having a difficult enough time with that. I had breastfed my 5-month-old son before I left to see the doctor, and then I didn't see him for 3 weeks. They couldn't bring him to the hospital because it was too dangerous for someone his age. So my only connection to him was my now radioactive milk that I would have to pump and dump every day. I lay around, just thinking about all the things I would never get to do. I would never get to see him go to school. I would never make him a Halloween costume or take him to camp. I wouldn't be there when he graduated or got married. He would never even know me. Even if I lived the maximum amount of time, I would only ever be some mother from a story, a mother in photographs. I would never be his mom, because you need love for that. I mourned everything I thought I had or I wanted to do. My entire life felt surreal, and I felt unequipped to adjust to this new reality. I was outside of my body all the time. I did the same thing I did after my mom died suddenly, that until that moment I only equated with breakups, where you wake up in the morning and for a brief second, before you remember, everything is okay. And then you remember, and everything is horrible again. I felt like I lost my grip on what was real. I felt like I was just going to float away. One night in the hospital, I asked my mom to get into the bed with me and hold me down because I was afraid if she didn't, I would simply drift away. I'll tell you, it's terrible to feel that kind of hopeless. If I left my bed at all, I did it slumped over. I shuffle walked. I literally couldn't even be bothered to pick up my feet. I felt like I wasn't able to do that. Everything felt irreparable. I couldn't watch TV. I wouldn't read. I barely spoke. If I was inspired to do anything, it was to research my disease. But because the news was always so bad, it just made me put my phone down and go back to staring at the ceiling. I can't actually imagine what it must have been like to be around me at that time. I didn't just get my disease. I lost myself. And it would take a collection of specific and seemingly unconnected things to help make those first shifts towards changing my attitude from I'm going to die to I'm going to fight. The first thing I did was change rooms. Now, this seems like a stupid thing, but changing my environment actually had a monumental effect on my spirits. Despite the fact that I cried a lot, the nurses had really taken a shine to me. It probably didn't hurt that I was the youngest patient by 40 years and showed no interest in biting anyone. So when the new room became available, they moved me into it right away. It was the biggest and brightest room on the floor. And along with a bed and a view, there was a couch for someone to sleep over, and an actual table for people to sit at, and a big picture window that filled the room with warm, kind light. Every day I would look out at the blue sky and the green hills of Burbank, and I would tell myself that I would be part of that world again. I would say, I will not die from this. I will not die from this. I will not die from this, over and over, willing myself to believe it. The second thing was I started dealing with one really great doctor, rather than a collection of marginal ones. Without trying to be insulting, the initial days of my diagnosis were with a B team. I was getting all this conflicting information. The doctors I was dealing with knew nothing about my disease. They were marginal at best with bedside manners, and they showed little to no interest in seeking any alternative than to my inevitable death. One doctor even cried, telling me she had also just had a baby, and she couldn't imagine such a horrible tragedy befalling her. Now listen, I'm all for doctors having empathy, but this wasn't it. I remember thinking I wanted to just scream at her to get out of the room, but I think I said something simpish like, "Thank you for understanding," instead. 4 days into my hospital experience, I met a different doctor. He was an expert, an actual pulmonologist. He was calm and smart, and he sat down and he explained to me that my disease was so rare that no one knew much about it. And the only people I should be listening to were the ones who truly understood, and not all these other folks. He told me not to get ahead of myself in the death department because the statistics, even the most recent ones, were out of date, that nothing was for sure. He was adamant that I make an appointment with a real specialist, and he pulled a bunch of strings to make sure I got one right away. He also contacted a therapist that he thought would be best suited for my particular situation and convinced me to see the fact that there was no primary cause for my disease, the other disease that they were looking for, as a good thing, not a bad thing. The fact that I was healthy, aside from this terrible disease, would only help me as I move forward in my battle. Yes, if I had lupus, they might be able to reverse the pulmonary hypertension, but I would still have lupus. Finally, he went so far as to say he wouldn't let me die from this. And whether he could keep that promise or not, hearing him say it helped me believe it. The love and care this man offered to me is probably the single most influential thing I had in those early days to pull myself together and believe someone was in my corner, that there was someone who wouldn't give up on me, so I couldn't give up on myself. It's important we have people in our lives who give us hope and encourage us to stick things out even when we don't want to. And sometimes that's not your family or your friends. It's a stranger with expertise who knows what they're talking about and has no reason to blow sunshine up your ass. I got in touch with that therapist. I'm a big believer in mental health, but it's also important you find someone who works for you the way you need them to. It's not enough just to have a person. You have to have the right person. And the woman that this doctor had chosen for me was not only a therapist, but she had survived a rare spinal tumor. Not only had she been told she was going to die, but they told her even if she lived, she would never walk again. And 5 years later, she was back in her practice, tumor-free, having just finished her second marathon. This woman understood where I was. She understood the fear and the rage that come with this kind of diagnosis. She acknowledged how hard the journey had been and how exhausting it is to try and live above the noise and fear. She was patient and available and full of hope and fight that I needed to find in myself. I was able to see my son. Almost 3 weeks after I watched his father wave his pudgy little hand from the top of the stairs at me, they wheeled me down to the hospital courtyard, and I was able to give my now 6-month-old baby a hug. He didn't pay much attention to me, which hurt my feelings because I thought he'd forgotten about me already. But seeing him changed my outlook. I had been so removed from everyone, so caught up in being the patient that I forgot I was a mother. Seeing him reminded me of everything I had to live for and why I wasn't allowed to give up. When I was finally discharged from the hospital, I was a different person than when I went in. I went through a full range of emotions and probably personalities, skipping back and forth from wanting to be alone with my grief to wanting to be with everyone I was going to miss. Trying to strike the right balance made me sort of insane. 3 months after my diagnosis, I started to find my way back to myself. There were new drugs, I was getting stronger, I was working through my feelings with the therapist. I got into a different headspace, and honestly, I got lucky. I was diagnosed at the right time in the right place. 5 years earlier or in a different city, I probably would have been dead in 2 years. But I happened to get sick in a city with some of the best specialists in the nation, with some of the top researchers in the country that valued medical research. In fact, 6 months after my diagnosis, I went on a new drug that had just finished trials, and some of those patients had lived up to 10 years. And I thought, man, if I can live 10 years, what will they have come up with by then? Which, side note, is why people like RFK Jr. can't be in charge of Health and Human Services. He wants to put a hold on medical trials for 8 years. That is a lifetime in science. So many people will die. Why would anyone want that? As horrible as this entire experience has been, and I am not going to sugarcoat it, it has been awful. It's impossible not to feel grateful for having experienced it. I've had terrible days, weeks, sometimes months. There have been a number of times where we thought I was going to die. I lived in and out of the hospital. I went through a couple of years where I was just blacking out, just going down and terrifying everyone, including myself. One time it was just me and my 12-year-old, and he had to pick up my body and carry me into the house and get me oxygen and put me in the shower. This kid has been through so much in his young life, but I cannot say he's not a better person for it. The thing is, we learn from hardship. We grow. We improve. By the time I got to the 2-year mark and I wasn't dead, I knew I had to do something with my life that honored the extra time I'd been given. I started PoliticsGirl because I really wanted to help the country. I knew life was short and you have to do the best with the time you have. And I couldn't work a normal job because of my health, so here was something I could do. Now, right now it feels like I failed, but I don't think I did. I don't think any of us did. The country is sick. Disinformation and hate and greed are a cancer on our nation, and they have metastasized. What we just found out in this election, what is coming for us, it's scary and it's dangerous. And we have to take the time to be sad and be angry and mourn what we thought we were, who we thought we were. But then we need to change rooms and we need to let the light in. And we have to listen to the experts and we have to take their advice. And we have to look at our friends and family and realize they're worth fighting for. We have to find hope in the struggle. And if we live through this, I know we'll come out better for it. I'm going to say the same thing to you that was said to me. America is not going to die from this. What is coming at us might be terrible, but it will solidify our priorities. We are going to end up grateful for the things we took for granted in the past. Future us will work harder and do better and be better because we lived through the alternative and we survived and we know more. Now, because this podcast isn't possible without sponsors, I'm going to take a break to talk about the people who are kind enough to support this show, and then I'm going to be back with some final thoughts. Well, since this is Thanksgiving week, let's talk about food, specifically meal kits. I will be honest, meal kits have not always been my thing. As a busy person who wants home-cooked meals, I have tried a lot of them, and they didn't really deliver on taste, and the assembly was often so fussy that I just hated doing it. But Marley Spoon is different. Now I get all these delicious meals without the hassle of thinking about them or shopping for them. I just choose them weekly on my computer and they show up on Monday on my front porch. I genuinely can tell you I love this service. Marley Spoon has over 100 recipes to choose from each week. Last week's favorite was sheet pan shrimp tacos, but every single meal was good. Like really good. Not like, yeah, this is fine, but like, dude, this is good. It's good, right? That kind of good. The variety is wild. There is no way you won't find something you will like, and it's all customizable. You want it to be vegetarian, family-friendly, low-carb, they've got you covered. They even have an in-house registered dietitian to make sure you're eating healthy without the guesswork. And the timing couldn't be better because the holidays are here, and Marley Spoon's lineup is bringing you all the festive vibes. They've got seasonal meals and fancy desserts like duck breast with sour cherry sauce and blackout chocolate cake and snickerdoodle sandwich cookies. Plus, you can try recipes from Martha Stewart's 100th cookbook, exclusively adapted for Marley Spoon. So here's the offer that'll make your holiday even sweeter. This holiday season, give the gift of great personalized food with Marley Spoon. Head to marleyspoon.com/offer/politicsgirl and use the code politicsgirl for up to 27 free meals. That's right, 27 free meals with Marley Spoon. One last time, that is marleyspoon.com/offer/politicsgirl. And don't forget to use the promo code politicsgirl so they know that we sent you. As we head into the holidays, it's a great time to think about what we're thankful for. Friends, family, good health, and part of that health is skin health. I am a super white person, and skin cancer is something I like to keep on top of. It's nice to look nice, but it's more important to be healthy, which is why I've been so pleased with OneSkin. I live in LA, so I use OneSkin sunscreen every day. I even keep it in the car for my hands. But OneSkin has an entire line of skincare that doesn't just treat surface level issues, but works at the cellular level to keep your skin healthy and resilient as you age. Their secret is the OS1 peptide, which targets the sentient cells, the ones that stop our skin from producing collagen and hyaluronic acid. This peptide helps you turn those cells off, so your skin stays hydrated, smooth, and vibrant. And coming up on the holiday season, OneSkin is introducing a limited edition holiday bundle. This exclusive bundle comes with travel sizes of OS1 Face, OS1 Eye, and OS1 Body, all in a little bag. I just got one, and it's coming on the road with me. It's the perfect gift for anyone wanting to invest in long-term skin health or even a little treat for yourself. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, addressing skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root cause of aging so skin can behave, feel, and appear younger. Why not get started with your new face, eye, and body routine at a discounted rate today? Get 15% off with the code politicsgirl at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with the code politicsgirl. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please let them know it was us. We only have one body, one skin, so why not make it the best it can be? Age healthy with one skin. With the holidays upon us, let's talk about making gift giving more meaningful and supporting artisans and craftsmen in a more personalized way rather than just using those big box stores. Uncommon Goods makes holiday gift giving special by gathering unique, hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list in one place. Uncommon Goods scours the globe for original, handmade, and one-of-a-kind items that make gift giving feel more personal and magical. I mean, it's fun to shop on their site. You can put in people's specific interests and get personalized treasures and really find that memorable gift. For example, one of my favorite Christmas presents last year was from Uncommon Goods. Sean had them make me an old school viewfinder, but the picture disc had the last 16 years of holiday cards. It was vintage, it was my childhood, it was our family memories, it was incredibly special, and I loved it so much. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses, and many of the items are made in small batches, so I would recommend shopping early before they sell out. They also focus on quality, unique designs, and many products are even handmade right here in the USA. They have everything from personalized gifts to unique finds for kids, sports fans, book lovers, bird watching, whatever your people are into. It's not your typical holiday selection. And for every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods donates $1 to a nonprofit of your choice, with over $3 million donated to date. So, to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/politicsgirl. That's uncommongoods.com/politicsgirl for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. As they say, Uncommon Goods, because we are all out of the ordinary. And we're back. Happy Thanksgiving, my friends. As you go into this holiday season, perhaps the most normal one we're going to have for a while, take a step back and appreciate it. Take a walk and appreciate nature. Look around and appreciate your friends, your safety, your life. Appreciate your health if you have it, or this day if you don't. I am grateful for all the people who have supported me through everything I have been through, particularly my amazing husband, whose positive attitude was not always appreciated but was always necessary. I am thankful for the medical community who has kept me alive all these years, for the research and the doctors and the funding to find cures, for all the kind nurses who helped me in my darkest of days. I am grateful to my mother, who helped me be a good mother even when I was so weak, for my in-laws who stepped up when she couldn't and who took care of their son and my son when I couldn't. I am grateful to all the people who still believe that being good matters, who will still raise their children to be kind in a world that seems to reward being cruel. If we can keep our light, this darkness won't last. Don't let these terrible outside circumstances change who you are. In fact, one of the best things you can do with terrible outside circumstances is to remain who you are. Don't let this breakdown in cultural norms, this illness in our country, wreck you. Keep your ethics, keep your empathy, keep the faith. I know that living with uncertainty comes with its own set of problems, but if you rest when you need to and disconnect when you have to and take moments of joy when they are offered to you, then I believe we will make it through this. These people who would take everything from us, they're not gods. They're just humans. And so are we. And there are so many more of us than there are of them. I'm so grateful you joined me today. Remember, you can fall apart if you need to. You just can't stay there. Once you've felt all your feelings, you're going to need to get back up because we are going to need you. The future is going to need you. Until next week, happy Thanksgiving. PG out. Before you go, I just wanted to say if you're a premium member of this podcast, thank you. And if you're not, please consider supporting my work. If we've learned anything from the fallout of this election, it's that mainstream media has let us down, and it's essential that those of us doing independent work are supported moving forward. The right-wing media ecosystem is so far-reaching and well-funded that their propaganda was incredibly effective on the American people. The extremists have been able to shape the mindset of a fair amount of this nation, and we have to invest in our own independent voices to fight back. So if you aren't a member of PoliticsGirl Premium, please consider going to PoliticsGirl.com and signing up. I can't continue this now dangerous work without your help. The beauty of signing up to support me is that you get this podcast ad-free, along with my short rants sent directly to your inbox. So even if my work is silenced online, you will still get access to the truth. There is a link to sign up in the bio of this episode, but also on PoliticsGirl.com. Thank you again for your time and your support. Happy Thanksgiving.